Hey everyone, I'm Anne-Marie from Hella Basque, and today we are talking about Basque people. So this is an introductory series about the Basque Country, and we've already talked about what the Basque Country is, where it is, but now we can talk about who lives in the Basque Country and around the world, really. Because there are about 3 million people in the Basque Country, but then you've got different waves of migration outside of the Basque Country over the last few centuries. So there are hundreds of thousands of people of Basque descent all over the world, as well as Basque people whom current day have moved outside of the Basque Country. So Basque people, they're everywhere, you just gotta know where to look for them. Now, historians, scientists, for decades have been trying to figure out where Basque people come from because they're kind of unique, I guess, in that the Basque language, Euskara, is pre-Indo-European and it's a language isolate. Linguists can't figure out what it's related to, so it's not quite French, it's not at all Spanish. So scientists have been trying to figure out the Basques for a long time. Now, recent research indicates that the Basque people were descended from a group of farmers on the Iberian Peninsula that lived about 3,500 to 5,500 years ago. So scientists have narrowed it down to a 2,000-year gap of when Basque ancestors showed up in Iberia, and that these people would have been isolated from later waves of migration from North Africa and other parts of Europe to what is the Basque Country, or around the current day Basque region. Other interesting things about the Basque people that scientists have figured out is that there's a really high concentration of people with type O blood among Basque people, and there's also a really high incidence of Rh negative blood. So scientists have been trying to figure out, like, why is it that Basque people stayed so small relatively to other groups in Europe with really booming populations? And some believe that maybe it had to do with this Rh negative blood factor, because before modern day medicine and science today, pregnant mothers with Rh negative blood, if they had a fetus with positive blood, that would cause a lot of complications throughout the pregnancy and childbirth. So they think that there was a high rate of miscarriages and stillbirths among Basque people. So it's a very small group of people. It's definitely an ethnic minority, a linguistic minority in Europe, but a very proud one. So let's get into characteristics about Basque people. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying you can't really generalize about anybody. Within any group of people, there's individuals, nothing is completely 100% true for everybody. So I'm just going to speak to some stereotypes, like some things that people say about the Basques. I'm not saying like all of this is entirely accurate, but just kind of some things that are thrown out there about Basque people. Let's start with the positives. That Basque people are very hardworking. They're known to be really hardworking people, especially the older generations, like my dad's generation, especially immigrants coming from the Basque Country. They just work. That's all they know. Like my dad and his siblings, like they can't sit in front of the TV for long, and if they do, they've got to be like chopping some peppers or like shelling some beans. They got to be doing something productive like at all times. So of course, any group of people, I'm sure there's lazy Basques out there. I just don't know very many of them. Basque people are also known for loving eating and drinking. That's not a particularly Basque trait, but they do have very strong gastronomical traditions. And one of my favorite things about Basque people is that Basques are really into singing. Like at parties or on a night out or after a long meal, like someone will just start a song and like everybody will join in, and there will be like this beautiful moment where everybody's speaking Euskara, like whether they actually speak the Basque language or not, like everybody's singing in Basque, and that's really cool. So like even though I don't have a mastery of the Basque language, I do have a repertoire of songs in Basque, and that's just really fun to like join in and like feel like you're a part of thing, and it's really jovial. And Basque people good at singing, like even when the singing's like no good, like it's really good. Also, a lot of Basque people have really strong family ties and strong connections to where they're from. Like I said, not true for everybody, but I find that Basque people really care about their identity as Basques and where they come from, and really have this sense of pride. Even if some parts of traditional Basque culture are lost within the family, or somebody moves to the big city and they don't really have that connection anymore, it's like everybody kind of regionally is like really proud of where they're from in the Basque Country, and that's something really cool. So people will assimilate to dominant cultures wherever they live, but at the end of the day, it's like Basque people know that they're Basque and they really care about being Basque, and I think that's really great. Moving on to the negative stereotypes. There's this big thing out there about Basques being mysterious. You'll read tons of articles about it. It's like, oh, Basque people, where do they come from? It's so mysterious. Where's their language from? It's so mysterious. I mean, I think any ethnic group is mysterious in some way. If you're looking from the outside in and you know nothing about them, like, sure, anything is mysterious, but I don't know. I don't particularly find Basque people mysterious. Like, they're just people. But that's a thing. People think Basques are super unique and weird. And I mean, in a way that they are, I don't think they're that different. Like, Basques, they're just like us, but not. What else? Basque people are known to be stubborn or also very closed off to outsiders, and like I said, that depends on the person, maybe the generation as well, also where they live. Like, I'm in a really small town right now in Iparralde, the northern Basque Country, and sure, like, if you're a tourist walking down the street, like, inevitably, eventually, you're gonna get a grandma stick her head out the window and stare at you and try to figure out who you are, where you come from, and what you're doing here. But I don't know if that's a particularly Basque trait or that's just common in rural communities around the world. That's just a little bit about Basque people. There's so much more to say, and there are so many more generalizations that could be made if you want to, but that's just a little bit of the things that I've seen, read, heard about Basque people that you may have also heard or be curious about. Please, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like down below or comment. Let me know what else about the Basque people you think is worth mentioning, and we can kind of get a discussion going and share with everybody. And if you want to learn more about the Basque Country and Basque people, you can subscribe down there to the Hella Basque YouTube channel. We're bringing you videos every week on Thursdays all about this subject. Hit that bell if you want notifications straight to your account every time we post a video, and I'll have links in the description to our social media if you want to keep in touch that way. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Excuse me, that's my neighbor on the tractor.